fresh off my Arizona investigation, and if you missed that wild trip, go watch it before the ghosts down there start feeling unappreciated. I'm touching down in a brand new state. That's right, we're kicking off most haunted places in Missouri. And I don't know about you, but I'm already sensing the spirits here warming up like it's preseason practice. Arizona was dry, dusty, and full of ghosts who clearly never learned personal boundaries. Missouri? Oh, Missouri's got a whole different vibe. A spooky blend of Midwest hospitality, and why did that shadow just move on its own? Before we jump into the hauntings, let's talk about the state itself. Missouri's been around since 1821, back when people apparently weren't afraid of building towns next to big rivers that regularly flood like they're trying to audition for the part of Atlantis. With the Mississippi and Missouri rivers slicing through the state, you know the vibes are already dramatic. Add in Civil War battles, the Oregon Trail, riverboat gamblers, and a whole lot of settlers who didn't always make it to their forever homes, and boom, instant ghost buffet. And let's be honest, Missouri has layers. You've got forests thick enough to hide Bigfoot, limestone caves that look like portals to the underworld, and small towns where everyone knows everyone, and also knows exactly who's haunting which attic. History sticks around here like humidity in July. If walls could talk in Missouri, they'd probably whisper, "Wait till you see the basement." But don't worry, this is going to be fun. Missouri's hauntings aren't just spooky. They're the kind of stories that make you laugh nervously and sleep with the hallway light on, just in case. Every town here has a haunted hotel, a cursed road, a creepy abandoned something, and at least one old lady who swears she saw a ghost sitting on her porch drinking lemonade. Now, Missouri is more than just paranormal hotspots. The state has produced some seriously iconic celebrities. We're talking Brad Pitt, Sheryl Crow, Walt Disney, Don Cheadle, John Hamm, and even Nelly. That's right, the man who said, and I quote, "Girl, I think my butt is getting big," is from St. Louis, which explains why Missouri stays sweating. Imagine giving a ghost a must-be-the-money head nod as you walk past. Elite Missouri experience. And we can't forget about the great Mark Twain. So buckle up, because Missouri is about to take us on a ride. Haunted mansions, spooky forests, cursed caves, abandoned hospitals. This state said, why have just one haunted building when you can have all of them? I've got my ghost hunting snacks, my overnight bag, and my emergency note button ready to go. Let's dive in. Welcome to most haunted places in Missouri. If Arizona was the warm-up, Missouri is the full-on haunted main event. Get ready. This is going to be fun, creepy, chaotic, educational, and just slightly traumatic in the best way. If you've ever driven through St. Louis and spotted a giant, brooding Victorian mansion that looks like it's still annoyed that the 1800s are over, you've probably seen the Lemp Mansion. Built in the 1860s by the wealthy Lemp family, owners of a booming beer empire, the mansion was meant to show off their success, sophistication, and "we have more money than you" energy. Instead, it became one of the most famously haunted houses in America, mostly because the Lemp family endured more tragedy than every season of Grey's Anatomy combined. The Lemp Brewery was massive back in its day. They had underground caves, cold storage tunnels, high-end brewing systems, basically St. Louis's original beer kingdom. Everything was going great until Prohibition came knocking like the world's worst landlord. The brewery collapsed almost overnight, leaving the Lemps drowning in financial ruin, heartbreak, and enough bad luck to qualify for a lifetime warranty of haunting. Now on to the spooky stuff, because the mansion is basically a ghost convention center. Visitors report knocks on the walls, footsteps in empty hallways, doors opening for no earthly reason, and an occasional dramatic, ghostly sigh, like someone realizing the St. Louis Cardinals really aren't making the playoffs this year. People say the whole place feels off, like someone invisible is watching you and silently judging your outfit. The most active spirit is William Billy Lemp Jr., who died inside the mansion after the family business fell apart. He's known for pacing the halls, opening doors, and giving guests the supernatural cold shoulder. Billy allegedly flickers lights, slams doors, and throws mini ghost tantrums, which, honestly, is understandable. I'd be mad too if an entire law wiped out my beer empire in one go. Then there's Elsa Lemp, William's sister, famously known as the Lemp Heiress. She died under extremely suspicious circumstances, the kind that make people tilt their heads and say, "Now hold on." Guests often see a woman in an elegant dress drifting past mirrors. Some swear she appears when someone tries to take a selfie in terrible lighting, just to provide hauntingly honest feedback. One of the saddest spirits is the so-called monkey face boy, believed to be a hidden Lemp family son who lived in the attic due to a congenital condition. People still hear tiny footsteps up there, along with tapping, giggling, and objects moving around like someone's playing ghostly hide-and-seek. Guests who visit the attic often walk out with the same attitude. Yep, never doing that again. Throughout the mansion, you'll find cold spots that feel like the ghosts are constantly opening invisible refrigerators. Some visitors swear they've been tapped, brushed, or gently poked on the shoulder, only to turn around and find nothing. Others hear murmured voices in empty rooms, conversations happening behind closed doors, and soft cries echoing from hallways that haven't seen a living person in decades. Staff members insist the mansion locks and unlocks doors all by itself. Cute until you're the one trapped inside. Today, the Lemp Mansion is a restaurant, inn, and paranormal hotspot where people go to enjoy dinner, celebrate events, and then immediately scream because a ghost just tugged on their sleeve. It's a place where history, heartbreak, and humor all collide. And if you ever decide to visit, don't be surprised if you feel a chill on your neck, hear a whisper in your ear, or spot a shadow gliding across the hall. It might be a ghost, or it might just be a Lemp ancestor silently judging your drink order. The Missouri State Penitentiary in Jefferson City opened in 1836, which basically means it's older than most states' high schools, grocery stores, and at least half the ghosts living in it today. Back then, lawmakers bragged it was the bloodiest 47 acres in America, which is not exactly the tourism slogan you'd put on a brochure. But hey, it worked. For nearly 170 years, it operated as a maximum security prison that held everyone from bank robbers to gangsters to people who probably just looked at someone the wrong way in 1845. Fast forward through the decades, and MSP became known for its riots, escapes, harsh conditions, and inmates who were tougher than unseasoned cast-iron skillets. The 1954 prison riot was the biggest in its history. Inmates burned buildings, fought guards, and caused millions in damage. Basically, it was The Purge Penitentiary Edition, but without the soundtrack. After all the chaos, the prison stayed open until 2004, when the state finally said, "Yeah, we probably shouldn't be running a 19th century dungeon anymore." Now let's talk ghosts, because when you've got 168 years of anger, drama, heartbreak, revenge, and cafeteria mystery meat, something is definitely sticking around. The haunted reputation of MSP is legendary. Ghost hunters love it. Paranormal investigators call it Disneyland. Regular visitors call it nope, absolutely not, especially when the tour guide casually mentions people still hear screams. in broad daylight. One of the most famous spirits is in A Hall, the oldest building on the property. People report full-body apparitions, cold spots, footsteps, and one grumpy ghost who's known for shoving visitors like he's still waiting in line for chow. Some say he was a violent inmate. Others say he's just mad they turned his prison block into a tourist attraction where everyone carries iPhones instead of shanks. Either way, he takes his job very seriously. Then there's the infamous dungeon cells, also called the Hole, where inmates endured total darkness, rats, isolation, and whatever nightmares the human brain could cook up after 3 days with no sunlight. Visitors today claim they hear heavy breathing, whispers, and chains rattling. One guy said he felt something tug his shirt, which honestly could have been a ghost or could have been someone trying to get him out of the way because those tunnels are tight. Several buildings also have sightings of shadow figures that zip across the hallways, like they're late for a ghost staff meeting. People hear doors slam, feel sudden cold breezes, and see strange lights moving around. One poor woman said she felt a hand grab her shoulder, turned around, and nobody was there. I don't know what's worse, getting touched by a ghost, or the fact you can't file a complaint about it with HR. And let's not forget the ghost of a famous inmate. Gangster Pretty Boy Floyd supposedly pops in from time to time. Folks claim they've seen a slick-looking man in old-school clothes standing in the corner of a hallway, then disappearing like he's late for his next crime spree in the afterlife. Honestly, if I was a famous outlaw, I'd haunt a prison too. You gotta make sure your legacy stays alive. Today, the Missouri State Penitentiary is a full-blown ghost-hunting hotspot. People come from all over just to scream, sprint, run into walls, and then say, "I wasn't scared, the floor was slippery." But whether you go for the history or the hauntings, one thing's for sure. This place didn't earn the bloodiest 47 acres in America by accident. And the ghosts who still roam the halls? Yeah. They're definitely not clocking out anytime soon. If you ever drive through the quiet little suburb of Belnor, Missouri, the last thing you'd expect is that one of those cute little brick houses once played host to a full-blown demon throwing furniture around like it was auditioning for WWE. Yet there it sits on Roanoke Drive, looking peaceful, normal, and absolutely not like the inspiration for The Exorcist. But back in 1949, this place was ground zero for one of the wildest alleged possession cases in American history. And ironically, the neighborhood kids today have no clue they're biking past the world's spookiest Airbnb. Our star of the show was a 14-year-old boy known under the alias Roland Doe. He was a shy, quiet kid from Maryland who loved spending time with his Aunt Harriet, who just so happened to be into spiritualism and Ouija boards. When she passed away, the family began hearing scratching, knocking, dripping, and shoes squeaking around the house, even though nobody was walking. Furniture moved on its own, religious pictures shook on the walls, and Roland's bed bounced around like it was trying to enter a talent show. Naturally, the family said, "Yes, this is normal," for about 5 seconds before panicking. Doctors were called, then pastors, then finally the Catholics got involved. A priest attempted an exorcism in Washington, D.C., but Roland managed to break free from his restraints, rip a bed spring out like a ninja, and slice open the priest's arm. After that, strange letters started appearing, scratched into Roland's skin. Words like Lewis, as if the demon was giving the family directions and a travel itinerary. So off to St. Louis they went, because apparently even demons like to relocate. Once Roland arrived in Missouri, he stayed with relatives in Belnor, and that's where the infamous paranormal circus really kicked off. Jesuit priests Father William Bodern and Father Raymond Bishop witnessed the bed shaking, furniture sliding, the boy growling in voices not his own, and flying objects whizzing past their heads like the world's angriest magic show. This peaceful suburban home became a spiritual wrestling ring, and the neighbors had no idea. Imagine grilling hot dogs in the yard while next door someone is battling demons. Missouri's suburbs hit different. After enough levitation, screaming, and supernatural special effects to fill a whole season of Stranger Things, the priests decided it was time to take Roland somewhere more controlled. So they transferred him to the Alexian Brothers Hospital in South St. Louis, a Catholic-run hospital with a locked psychiatric wing that could handle some demonic turbulence. That wing eventually became famous for housing the final showdown, also known as the main event, featuring one boy, one demon, and a very tired priest. Inside that hospital room, the exorcism dragged on for weeks. Roland reportedly growled, cursed, reacted violently to prayers, and spoke Latin despite not being a straight A student. One night, during a dramatic session involving prayers and a whole lot of sweat, the boy suddenly relaxed and said something along the lines of, "He's gone." Just like that, demon blocked, deleted, and unfriended. The priests looked like they needed a vacation. Roland returned to normal, and everyone pretended this was just another Thursday in Missouri. The hospital, however, didn't bounce back so quickly. The room where everything happened was sealed off permanently. Staff swore they felt icy cold air around the locked door. Lights flickered only in that hallway. Equipment malfunctioned for no reason. You know, the normal stuff you hope doesn't happen in a medical facility. When they eventually demolished the wing in the late 1970s, construction workers joked that the place fought back. One wrecking ball allegedly swung the wrong way and nearly hit another building. Even the demolition crew was like, "Yeah, we're not messing with whatever's in there." Today, the Exorcist house still stands privately owned and looking as plain as a loaf of white bread. The hospital wing is long gone. The boy grew up to live a completely normal adult life, and Missouri pretends it didn't host the most famous supernatural throwdown ever recorded. But legends don't die, especially not this one. If you've ever driven through Kearney, Missouri, you might notice a quiet little farmhouse sitting on rolling green land, looking all peaceful and innocent, like it hasn't seen outlaws, shootouts, Pinkertons, explosions, and more drama than a full season of The Real Housewives of Missouri. But that charming white farmhouse, that's the James family farm, the birthplace of Jesse and Frank James, America's most famous outlaw brothers. Before Jesse became the poster child for bank robbers everywhere, he was just a kid running around this yard probably getting yelled at for not doing his chores. The James brothers grew up in a tough time. Their dad was a preacher who left the family to go convert people in California and never came back. Their mother, Zerelda, was a strong, dramatic woman who could probably run her own TV show. She remarried twice, ran the farm, raised 3 kids, and still had time to clap back at the Pinkertons like it was her full-time job. She was basically the Beyoncé of the 1800s. Meanwhile, Jesse and Frank grew up riding horses, handling guns, and getting into the kind of trouble that would make modern parents say, "Absolutely not, iPad only." But the real turning point came during the Civil War, when the James family supported the Confederacy and guerrilla warfare came right through the front yard. Jesse was still a teenager when he joined up, and by the time the war ended, the boy had turned into a seasoned, angry outlaw with trust issues and a gun collection that would stress out every sheriff from Missouri to Minnesota. The James farm soon became the family hideout, the home base, and the you-didn't-see-nothing headquarters for the entire James Younger gang. The farm also became the site of one of the wildest historic events. The Pinkerton Detective Agency tried to smoke the James boys out with a bomb. Yes, a detective agency threw a literal bomb into a farmhouse. The explosion killed Jesse and Frank's young half-brother, mangled their mother's hand, and instantly earned the Pinkertons the title of most hated people in Clay County. To this day, the place still carries those scars. physical and paranormal. And honestly, if someone bombed my house, I'd haunt the place too. Over the years, people started reporting ghostly activity on the James farm, which makes sense because between the Civil War soldiers, the outlaw gang members, the Pinkertons, and Zerelda herself, there's enough unfinished business to keep a spirit employment agency running full-time. Visitors have claimed to hear horses galloping when no horses are around, boots walking on the porch, and even the sound of a woman yelling, "Boys, dinner," like she's still trying to get Jesse and Frank to sit down for a proper meal for once in their lives. One paranormal hotspot is the room where Jesse used to sleep. Guests have said the temperature drops so fast it feels like Jesse just rode in from a robbery and opened the window. Others report seeing a dark figure standing where the bed used to be, just staring. Some even say they hear whispering, as if Jesse and Frank are still planning one more comeback tour for the James Younger gang. Another favorite is the smokehouse, the little outbuilding where the family stored meat, and possibly some secrets. People claim to see shadows darting inside, doors slam on their own, and at least one visitor swears they got pushed. Whether it was a ghost or just a very cranky raccoon is still up for debate, but either way, people walked out fast. And of course, the star of the ghost show is Zerelda James, the queen of the house. Guests say her spirit still patrols the property like she's checking to make sure nobody's touching her furniture or asking too many questions about her sons. People report smelling her perfume, hearing her footsteps, and feeling a sudden wave of "don't mess with me" energy hit them the moment they walk into her parlor. If anyone is still running that farm in the afterlife, it's Mama Zerelda. Knob Noster, Missouri is one of those places that sounds like it should be the setting of a spooky Netflix show, but instead, it's a small, quiet town with a name that makes everyone smirk the first time they hear it. The town got its start in the mid-1800s, growing around the old railroad line that ran straight through it. Settlers were drawn to the area because of two unusual hills, big, round bumps on the landscape, which folks lovingly referred to as the Knobs. As for Noster, that came from a Latin word meaning hour, making the name of the town basically Our Knobs. And listen, once you know that, it's hard to say the town name with a straight face ever again. As the years went on, Knob Noster became known for farming, the railroad, and eventually the nearby Whiteman Air Force Base. But long before F-15s were roaring through the sky, folks in town were whispering about ghosts hiding out in the woods on the trails, and even inside a few of the oldest buildings. See, Knob Noster has that kind of quiet, where you hear a stick crack behind you at night, and immediately assume you're in the first 5 minutes of a horror movie. The town might be peaceful, but the stories that float around it, not so much. One of the oldest legends comes from Knob Noster State Park, which is gorgeous during the day, but at night it looks like the place you lose cell phone service and then your life. Hikers have reported seeing a pale woman wandering near the lake, wearing a long dress that blows in the wind even when the air is still. Locals call her the Lady of the Knobs, which sounds like she should be performing at a Renaissance festival. But no, she's more of the tragic ghost type. They say she drowned in the lake over 100 years ago and still wanders the shoreline looking for her missing child. Folks claim that if you're alone near the water after sunset, you might hear her whisper your name. If it's mine she's whispering, I'm running straight back to the parking lot, no questions asked. Then there's the legend of the Phantom Rider. Back in the mid-1800s, Knob Noster was a rough little frontier town, and one man, an outlaw with a reputation for being too fast with his gun, died during a shootout just outside of town. Witnesses claimed that as he fell, his horse bolted into the woods and was never found. Ever since then, people swear they've heard the sound of a galloping horse tearing through the trees, even though you can't see anything. Imagine camping at 2 a.m., hearing hoofbeats sprinting toward you and grabbing your snacks like, "This ghost is not getting my Doritos." The next ghost on the list is one the kids in town love to dare each other about. the old railroad spirit. According to legend, a man working on the railroad in the 1870s lost his life in an accident so ridiculous it sounds like something out of a cartoon. He leaned too far out of a window to check a loose board and wham, the next train clipped him. Ever since, people have seen a shadowy figure walking along the tracks at night carrying a lantern. Sometimes the lantern swings, sometimes it floats, and sometimes it just turns on and off like the ghost is trying to send Morse code that says, "This is what happens when you don't follow workplace safety rules." But the creepiest story, and also the funniest one, comes from the Knob Noster Cemetery. Folks say there's a grumpy old ghost who wanders the headstones at night muttering under his breath. Nobody knows who he was in life, but the running joke in town is that he's still mad about the property taxes he paid in 1894. Some people have claimed to hear him hissing words like, too high," through the wind. If that's true, honestly, I get it. I'd haunt my tax office, too. And of course, no haunted town is complete without at least one mystery door knocker. Residents near the older homes report hearing someone knocking loudly on their front doors late at night. When they open the door, nobody. No kids laughing and running away, no Amazon package, no raccoon. Just the cold night air and a deep feeling that whoever knocked didn't want to come inside. They wanted you to step out. I don't know about you, but the moment a ghost starts playing ding-dong ditch with me, I'm moving cities and leaving all my belongings behind. So whether it's drowned spirits, phantom cowboys, glowing train workers, or petty tax-paying ghosts, Knob Noster has enough haunted history to fill a whole season of ghost hunting TV. And the best part? These ghosts aren't even hostile. They're just weird, dramatic, and noisy. Honestly, they fit right in with the rest of us. If you ever visit, enjoy the peaceful scenery, the friendly people, and the historic charm. But the moment something whispers your name in the woods, yeah, that's your sign to turn around and speed walk back to your car like you're late for work. Jefferson Barracks is one of those places in St. Louis where history practically oozes out of the ground. And occasionally, according to many folks, so do the ghosts. Founded in 1826, it served as one of the first permanent military posts west of the Mississippi. Soldiers marched, drilled, complained about the food, and tried not to freeze during Missouri winters. Over the decades, the barracks saw everything from Civil War chaos to world wars, and even the early days of military aviation. If walls could talk, Jefferson Barracks' buildings would spill so much tea they'd put TMZ out of business. As the years rolled on, the site wasn't just a military base. It became a full-blown community. You had troops training, cannons booming, horses clopping around, and officers yelling like they were auditioning for a Revolutionary War reboot on Netflix. But once the wars slowed down and the base shifted its purpose, the energy left behind didn't exactly fade away. Instead, it settled in. And some say it stuck around in forms that still wander the grounds late at night. Now let's talk about the cemetery. Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery. Beautiful, quiet, respectful, and allegedly haunted enough that even seasoned ghost hunters walk a little faster when the sun goes down. With over 200,000 burials, it's one of the largest military cemeteries in the country. People say the place feels peaceful during the day, but at night? Oh, baby. That's when the paranormal shift clocks in. Soldiers in old uniforms are often seen strolling between the headstones like they're still on patrol, probably wondering why modern soldiers get better boots. One of the most famous spirits is a Civil War soldier who likes to appear on the road near the cemetery. Witnesses say he steps out, looks confused, and then vanishes. Honestly, he probably takes one look at the traffic on I-255 and decides, nope, not dealing with that, and disappears back into the 1800s. There are also reports of phantom cannon fire. Imagine minding your business at 2 a.m. and suddenly hearing boom, but nothing's there. It's either ghosts or someone's uncle experimenting with fireworks again. Inside the barracks itself, several buildings are notorious for strange activity. Soldiers have reported hearing footsteps marching in perfect rhythm, which is extra creepy when the entire hallway is empty. One building has a ghostly officer who likes to bark orders even though he retired from life about a century ago. Can you imagine being a modern soldier getting yelled at by a dude in wool pants and a handlebar mustache? Sir, respectfully, we do not do bayonet drills anymore. Visitors often talk about cold spots in rooms that should not be cold at all, like Missouri in August should be illegal heat. People describe sudden chills, the sound of boots pacing, and even shadows moving along the walls. One woman said she saw a full apparition of a soldier walk straight into a brick wall. Honestly, same. That's me trying to find the bathroom in the dark. Then there's the tale of the Gray Lady, a spirit said to haunt one of the old hospital buildings. She's believed to be a nurse from the 1800s still checking on soldiers. Folks see her gliding down hallways, always calm, always quiet, probably exhausted from working a ghostly triple shift for the last 150 years. If that's not dedication, I don't know what is. In the end, Jefferson Barracks and its massive cemetery are places where history, heroism, and hauntings blend together like some spooky military smoothie. Whether you're there for the history, the scenery, or to accidentally lock eyes with a soldier who died in 1864, one thing's certain. The spirits at Jefferson Barracks are committed. They show up for roll call every night. And honestly, with a view that beautiful and that much history packed into one spot, who can blame them for sticking around? If you stroll down Walnut Street in downtown Springfield, you'll spot one building that simply refuses to age gracefully. That's the Landers Theater, born in 1909, dramatic since day one, and absolutely committed to being the most eccentric structure on the block. Designed in a fancy neoclassical style, it opened with all the glam of early 20th century showbiz. Springfield's high society flocked to it. Actors strutted across its stage, and the place quickly earned a reputation for being just a little extra, even before the ghosts moved in. The original owner, DJ Landers, was a lumber guy, which explains why this place is suspiciously full of wood framing. Most theaters at the time were switching to safer materials because, fires exist, but Landers said, nah, wood is fine. And for a while, he was right. Vaudeville, musicals, dramatic tearjerkers, everything rolled through those doors and soaked into the walls like old perfume and stage whispers. Then came the big explosion. In 1920, a boiler under the stage said, "You know what? I quit," and blew itself to pieces, causing a massive fire that could have taken out half of downtown. Flames shot up through the stage like they were auditioning for a role in Dante's Inferno. Miraculously, no one was reported killed, and an asbestos fire curtain saved the auditorium. The theater reopened in a few months, but the ghost stories, those definitely started cooking long before the smoke cleared. As the decades rolled by, the Landers reinvented itself over and over. It hosted silent films, then talkies, then eventually became home to Springfield Little Theater. At one point, the place even made national TV history with a live country music show broadcast from its stage. By the 1970s, it earned a spot on the National Register of Historic Places, because honestly, if any building deserved dramatic recognition, it was this one. Renovations came, carpets changed, seats upgraded, but the spirit stayed put, like tenants who refuse to move even when the rent goes up. Now the ghosts. The Landers has more supernatural drama than a season of American Horror Story. First, there's the classic Shakespearean ghost pacing back and forth in the top floor windows. People say he still rehearses lines up there, probably furious he hasn't gotten a standing ovation in 100 years. Then there's the glowing orb in the balcony, a soft green ball of light that floats around like it's doing a slow-motion entrance. But the main celebrity spirit is the legendary fried janitor. According to local lore, he died in the 1920 fire and now hangs out in the balcony like he's still on duty. Actors swear they've seen a man watching rehearsals from up high, only for him to vanish when they go check. The funny thing? Historical records say no one died in the fire. So either the ghost made up his resume, people got their tragedies mixed, or he just liked the drama of pretending he died dramatically. Then there's the haunting that hits a little deeper. Back during segregation, black patrons were forced to sit in the upper balcony. One tale says a man was stabbed up there during a fight and now lingers as that 5-foot-tall green haze people see hovering over the seats. It's eerie, emotional, and a reminder that some spirits stick around not because they're spooky, but because their stories were never fully told. And finally, the ghost baby. Rumor has it that during a chaotic evacuation decades ago, a child was accidentally dropped in the panic. Ever since, people swear they hear a baby crying in the balcony when the theater is empty, followed by the soft hush of a mother trying to calm it. Actors have heard it during rehearsals, tech crews during late-night setups, and absolutely no one has ever found an actual baby in the building. Just the chills. Today, the Landers Theater is packed with shows, laughter, applause, and musical numbers. But the spirits? They're still hanging around. If you visit and feel a mysterious cold breeze, don't freak out. It might be the AC, or it might be the janitor, the actor, the floating orb, or a century's worth of restless theater lovers still waiting for someone to shout, "Encore!" Either way, give an extra clap. At the Landers, you're never just performing for the living. And that, my friends, wraps up part 1 of the most haunted places in Missouri. If you made it this far, congratulations. You officially survived a tour of Missouri's creepiest basements, attics, and places you definitely shouldn't explore alone after midnight. Go ahead and pat yourself on the back, unless a ghost beats you to it. But don't get too comfortable. We're just getting warmed up. Missouri has way more haunted spots than one video can handle. Trust me. I tried to fit them all in one episode, and my laptop started smoking like a barbecue pit at a Chiefs tailgate. So part 2 drops next week, and it's about to get even wilder, weirder, and possibly a little more dangerous for my sanity. If you enjoyed this tour of ghostly nonsense, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and tap the notification bell. Because the spirits told me that if you don't, they'll start knocking things off your kitchen counter at 3 a.m. And honestly, I believe them. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Drop a comment with the haunted place you think should make part 2. Until then, stay safe, stay spooky, and remember, if you hear footsteps behind you, that's your problem now. See you next week.